Hey everybody, today we're talking about Avengers Infinity War. More specifically, we're going to be talking about how the events of Infinity War fulfill the character arcs of some of our favorite Avengers characters, because I think that people haven't been talking about this enough, you know? I just think that it's interesting. Is nobody thinking about these things? Does nobody notice? Does nobody pay attention? Or maybe you just don't rewatch the movies a million times. The characters that this movie accomplished things for that I'm going to be talking about were the original Avengers. So Iron Man, Hulk, Thor, Captain America, Black Widow, and Hawkeye is the sixth one. Hawkeye obviously wasn't in this movie. Spoilers, but obviously he's going to be in Avengers 4, okay? Black Widow didn't really matter in this movie. But, we know the Russo brothers said, we knew that because we had two films, Avengers 3 and 4, that in one movie we could push people to the forefront, but then we could pull back in the second film and push other characters to the forefront who had less screen time in the first movie. We did have the opportunity to divide it up that way. So if you feel like one of your favorite characters didn't get enough screen time in Avengers 3, well then wait till Avengers 4. So what that means to me is that Hawkeye, Black Widow, Captain America had this much screen time in this movie, so that means they're going to get a lot more in Avengers 4. Probably Tony and Hulk and Thor will also have a lot in Avengers 4 because none of them are dead at the end of this movie, and that's obviously for a reason. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's talk about Tony's arc, Thor's arc, and Hulk's arc, because that's what I really want to talk about here that meant a lot to me and that I haven't heard anybody talk about, and it's making me really mad. I want to punch someone, beat them up, stab them, like Tony got stabbed at the end of this movie. But he was okay. He didn't die because of his technology, because he was able to use the nanobots to heal up his little cut. And the reason he was able to do that is because he was so smart. So this is Tony's arc, okay, guys? We're going to talk about Tony's arc. Tony has 10 million arcs. There's so many little pieces that each are their own arc. So here's what I want to talk about, okay? After Iron Man 1 and 2, there's two things that are important to him. And those are Pepper, who he loves, and then he cares about righting the wrongs that he has done. But that's pretty much completed. By the end of Iron Man, he's righted those wrongs. So it's all good. It's all Gucci. And in Avengers, you see that he and Pepper are pretty chill, right? He's hooking up the cable to the power, and he goes up, and they're totally in a solid relationship, and he is totally fine at the start of the Avengers. He's totally fine. He's stable and fine. And that's where this arc begins, is in the Avengers, because he's in the Stark Tower with Pepper, and they're having a great time. And then Coulson comes in and says, Tony, we need you to save the world from Loki. And Tony is like, no, you don't. Tony puts up his holograms and stuff, and he's like, oh, wow, that's pretty bad. So he leaves Pepper, okay? He leaves Pepper. He leaves the comfort of his life. He leaves Pepper to go fight Loki and to go into the unknown. Tony didn't want to fight in the Avengers. He just did it because he had to, and he wanted to get it over with as quickly as possible. But in the Battle of New York, the World Security Council sent a nuclear missile at New York, and Tony was the only guy who could grab that missile and reroute it and fly it up through a wormhole. And then he was like, wow, I am going to die. I'm sacrificing my life for the world because no one else could. And he was prepared to die. And then he let go of the missile, he fell back down, and he actually made it through the wormhole right before it closed and got back to Earth. Hulk caught him, and he goes down the side of the building, and then he's okay, and then they have shawarma. But he's not okay. That's the thing, guys. He's not okay, okay? That's my whole point. Tony Stark is not okay.
How did you get out of the wormhole?
Wait a minute, Tony. What are you saying? Tony. Sorry.
Tony sacrificed his life to save the world from aliens. Tony was like, wow, I had to save the world from aliens. There's more people out there than just evil weapons manufacturers and terrorists. This is really bad.
Gods, aliens, other dimensions. I'm just a man in a can.
And he's traumatized. And so he's so terrified and traumatized that he just builds more suits and builds more suits and builds more suits and continuously refines his technology. And he continuously refines his technology so that he can save the world next time, so that next time he's prepared, because he wasn't expecting this. He knows that there's a lot worse stuff out there than just facing an army of aliens.
Threat is imminent, and I have to protect the one thing that I can't live without. That's you.
It could be a lot worse, and so he's preparing for that eventuality because he's deathly terrified that it'll happen again and they'll fail because he wasn't prepared.
You could have saved us. Why didn't you do more?
Everybody's telling him he needs to stop because it's ruining his life, it's ruining his sleep, it's making him into a jerk. Pepper even broke up with him at one point because that's how bad it was.
We're taking a break. A few years ago, I almost lost her, so I trashed all my suits. And then, I never stopped. Because the truth is, I don't want to stop.
But he keeps doing it because he's terrified and he's traumatized and he's got to, like, be prepared for when it happens again, because it's going to happen again. And then it does happen again in this movie. That's the point, guys. That's what I was getting at. That's what this whole rant has been about. It does happen again in Infinity War. And he's prepared because he refined his suits again and again and again until finally he came up with this nanobot technology. And the nanobot technology is what allows him to survive getting stabbed by Thanos. It also demonstrates that his fear in building Ultron, like the reason that he built Ultron was valid. He built Ultron to protect the world, not from itself, but from outside threats.
I see a suit of armor around the world.
Sounds like a cold world, Tony.
I've seen colder. What if next time aliens roll up to the club, and they will, they couldn't get past the bouncer?
The only people threatening the planet would be people.
It's implied in that movie that he's been planning this. He wanted to build Ultron, and he just didn't know how until they got the mind jump.
This could be it, Bruce. This could be the key to creating Ultron.
The idea is that he's been preparing for this, and now it's come.
Tell me his name again.
Thanos. He's a plague, Tony. He invades planets, he takes what he wants, he wipes out half the population. He sent Loki. The attack on New York, that's him.
This is it.
And now he's with Pepper again, and someone comes again, this time it's Doctor Strange instead of Coulson, and they convince him, this time with Hulk instead of footage, that he is needed. And so he leaves Pepper again. He goes into space again. In the first Avengers, at the end of the movie, he's almost stuck in space, but he gets through at the last second. This time at the end of the movie, he is stuck in space, but he's still alive, still available to save the world in Avengers 4 because he was prepared, and the reason he was prepared is because of what happened in the Avengers. This is the culmination of his arc. This is what it's been leading up to.
This is it.
These last 5 movies. Not the first 2, but the last 5 movies he's been in. Well, I guess Spider-Man wasn't really leading into this either. That's not the important thing to me. So, I guess we're done talking about Tony finally after like 15 minutes. Which means we can move on to Thor.